Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not looking at tragedy after the fact. Instead, we're studying the immediate precursors to disaster. I mean, the things that almost happened.
The near misses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Normally, traffic analysis is all about collision reports, insurance claims. But our deep dive today is centered on a really specific, and I have to say, pretty stressful data set.
It is.
It's 16 incidents, all categorized as near misses, that were recorded over just 3 months, from October to December 2025. And they're all in one area, Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, India.
And that's really what gives this data set its power. These aren't just minor incidents. These are moments where, all the ingredients for a catastrophic accident, we're talking speed, bad road geometry, aggressive driving, they all came together.
But the crash didn't happen.
Right. Contact was avoided either by sheer luck or, incredibly quick reflexes. So we've taken this raw material that details the location, the time, the vehicles, and these vivid, almost frantic descriptions of what happened in these 16 scenarios.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission here is to filter this really intense snapshot of daily driving and find the repeating patterns of risk.
Right.
We want to find those predictable elements, the vehicles, the specific maneuvers, and really critically, the geometry of the roads themselves. The idea is to give you a shortcut to understanding what makes these roads so dangerous so you can see it coming.
And that anticipation is everything. These patterns are so consistent. They reveal a systemic, repeatable risk profile. This isn't just random carelessness.
So let's jump right in. Let's start with the geography. If you're driving in through Thiruvananthapuram, this data gives a pretty clear map of where you need to be on high alert.
It really does. We can basically set up a 3-tiered hierarchy of risk based on where these near misses clustered.
Okay.
By far, the majority, I think it was 9 of the 16 happened on highways. The risk drops a little, but it's still high on city roads. That accounts for 5 incidents.
The last few.
And then finally, you have 2 incidents on these really specific, non-standard roads. We've labeled them specialized or winding roads.
Let's talk about the highways first, because the risk there is just so tied up with speed. We're talking about major arteries like NH66 or that stretch near the Magic Planet Highway Road.
Right.
The problems aren't just high speed, but this constant aggressive mix of actions, sudden lane cuts, dangerous overtaking.
And the merging. Vehicles merging from a parked position or even from a service road, just pulling right out into fast traffic.
Not even looking sometimes.
Exactly. And the geometry on these highway hotspots, it's a massive stress multiplier. The data set calls out specific complex curves again and again. For instance, the S-curve.
Right, the S-curve. Explain what that does to a driver.
Well, it forces you to rapidly switch the angle of your vehicle's bank. I mean, you're turning left and then almost immediately you have to transition to turning right. It takes a lot of precision.
And at high speed, any mistake is a crisis.
It's an immediate crisis. And we also see issues with the banking curve itself. It can sort of lull a driver into overconfidence right up until they hit a signal or a sudden merge point.
So then when we move into the city roads, the whole risk profile changes. It's not about speed anymore. We're talking about places like Cananthur City Road or near school zones. It's about density.
Pure density. The roads are narrow, they're congested, and the physical environment is actually working against you.
How so?
The visibility is severely limited. You have buildings right up against the street, creating these blind corners. It's like a dangerous game of peekaboo where your sightline is constantly being blocked.
And the risk here is just pure impatience.
Exactly. Which is why this setting is where we start to see one specific factor really dominate the conversation. Auto rickshaw recklessness. Their size becomes a weapon they use to squeeze through gaps that shouldn't exist.
And what about those really unique, specialized roads? Fewer incidents, but they sound particularly tricky.
They represent a very specialized kind of danger. I mean, these are layouts that actively confuse standard driving rules. The sources pointed out configurations like the F-shaped curve.
An F-shaped curve.
Yeah, and the S intersection. Imagine a winding road that suddenly meets a central divider. These layouts force drivers into making snap decisions in very tight spaces.
Which aggressive drivers then exploit.
They absolutely exploit it. They combine that tricky geometry with an already illegal move, like trying to force a pass in a blind spot where nobody would ever expect it.
Okay, so we know where the trouble is. Let's shift now to the who. If we exclude the car that was, generating this data, the involvement of 2 specific types of vehicles is just impossible to ignore.
It's completely disproportionate. They're the primary actors forcing these near-miss situations.
Let's start with the auto rickshaws. You mentioned them before. They were involved in what, at least 7 of the 16 incidents?
That's right. And we're not talking about minor infractions here. The descriptions detail these high-stakes, aggressive moves that just leverage their small size.
Like forcing narrow passes.
Forcing passes in completely confined spaces, making these sudden, erratic U-turns and just driving way too fast for the environment they're in.
It's like the yellow line on the road is just a suggestion to them.
It's totally optional. Their maneuverability is exploited, and it just creates these immediate high-risk situations for everyone else on the road. It paralyzes the traffic flow with these completely unexpected moves.
But even with all that, the two-wheeler category, motorcycles, scooters, they're the consistent, let's say, winner here.
Oh, yeah. They're involved in at least 9 of the incidents. That's more than half the entire data set.
Why is it so high?
It's a direct reflection of a kind of perceived invincibility. They feel like they can navigate gaps in traffic that, for a car, just don't exist. And the descriptions of their behavior are, frankly, alarming.
Like what?
Dangerous overtaking, often done with what the source material called minimal clearance.
Minimal clearance. I remember one specific description that was just shocking.
The 1-inch clearance?
1 inch. That's not a margin of safety. That's just intimidation.
It is. It's 100% intimidation. They are routinely described as flying down lanes at high speed and basically instigating high-risk scenarios, especially on those complex curves we talked about.
Where any slight correction means a crash.
A catastrophic crash. So you have this combination of their small size, which makes them hard to see and track, and this sheer aggressive speed. It just creates these instant, unavoidable hazards.
Now we get to the core of this. Here's where it gets really interesting. We've talked about where and who. Let's talk about how these near crashes actually happen.
The biggest pattern, one that runs through almost every incident, is dangerous overtaking and these incredibly narrow passes. But we need to be clear.
Oh, wow.
This isn't just a simple misjudgment of distance. The incidents are defined by aggressive forcing maneuvers. It's about a driver compelling the other vehicle to react violently, to brake hard or swerve, just to avoid being hit.
It's about pushing people out of the way.
The intent is to intimidate. And when you look at the sudden illegal turns or stops, the anecdotes just bring that stress level right home.
Give us an example.
Okay, imagine this. You're driving along, and a massive tipper lorry just lunges out of a petrol station, directly into your lane. 0 time to react. That kind of unexpected mass is paralyzing.
Or the car making an illegal U-turn right before a blind curve.
Exactly. You enter the curve, assuming the lane is clear, and suddenly there's a stationary object blocking your path. And of course, the auto rickshaws making those sudden U-turns in high-speed traffic. It just causes immediate panic.
This level of aggression brings us to what I thought was the most surprising and just psychologically draining detail in this data.
Key element of intent.
Malicious intent. We have to address the descriptions that go way beyond simple carelessness or even recklessness.
We do, because most traffic incidents, we frame them as errors of judgment. But several of these near-miss descriptions, they hint at something far more personal, more targeted.
It's the difference between someone accidentally running a red light and someone trying to box you in on purpose.
Precisely. The stress becomes psychological, not just physical. What specifically in the data led to this realization?
There was one description that was just deeply unsettling.
The one that said it leads to the realization that you are in a targeted, coordinated pursuit.
Yes, a pursuit. That's not a traffic incident anymore. That's something else entirely. You realize the hazard isn't random.
And then there's the most chilling detail, which involves a specific kind of vehicle.
The Chapri bike incident.
The Chapri bike incident, yeah. For anyone who isn't familiar with the term, a Chapri bike refers to a type of high-speed motorcycle. It's often associated with young, exhibitionist, and highly reckless driving in this region. Stunts, blatant disregard for safety.
And the source material says one of these bikes was following the narrator.
Following them for the specific purpose of ensuring they are off the road.
That just dramatically shifts the entire calculation for defensive driving, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the risk moves from anticipating a mistake to anticipating someone's malice, how do you even begin to prepare for that?
That is the critical question. This isn't just road rage. This seems to be intentional intimidation built right into the daily traffic flow.
Wow.
That aggressive driving culture, especially among some two-wheeler operators, it seems to sometimes move from just being reckless to being calculated harassment. And that adds this unique layer of psychological risk. You aren't just fighting physics on an S-curve anymore. You're also dealing with the possibility of a direct, aggressive challenge from another driver.
So let's synthesize this whole picture for you, the listener. This Thiruvananthapuram data set gives us this vivid, almost real-time map of danger. The near-miss pattern is it's a convergence of two powerful forces.
Right.
You have specific road geometry as curves, tight city roads meeting this overwhelming aggressive driving behavior.
And that aggression is overwhelmingly tied to the two vehicle types that can best exploit that system: auto rickshaws and two-wheelers. They execute these sudden, forced maneuvers that require a split-second violent correction from the victim driver just to survive.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, understanding these patterns is just invaluable. It lets you practice a kind of predictive defensive driving.
Exactly. For example, knowing that an S-curve near a highway service road isn't just a tricky curve, but it's a hot spot for those aggressive 1-inch clearance two-wheeler passes.
It lets you adjust your speed and your lane position before the hazard even shows up.
That's how you gain this deep knowledge about complex traffic dynamics. It moves you from reacting to preventing.
So what does this all mean? The data set shows us that if you are on a highway curve or navigating a building-lined city street in this area, your guard needs to be up. Not just for random errors, but for repeatable, aggressive moves that, in some cases, seem to be highly targeted.
Which really raises an important question for you to think about. If the data clearly suggests that some of these incidents aren't just carelessness, but are actually targeted pursuits, does this shift the entire strategy for defensive driving?
What do you mean?
I mean, if you have to anticipate malice rather than just misjudgment, how does infrastructure design or even driver education account for that very human element of aggressive intent? That's something for you to mull over on your own.
Use this knowledge to stay vigilant. Practice anticipation over reaction, and thank you for joining us for the deep dive.